don't just present problems, but present problems and solutions at the same time. If you feel like the email nurturing sequence, I feel like this is the theme for today, but
yeah, we'll go with that.
If you feel like your email nurturing sequence is not the right path to take and it's not going to move the needle, well, don't just say that. Like, well, what will?
Yeah, exactly.
And bring that to the table, because then that's how you start to develop that strategic
100%,
voice.
100%.
I got asked a really good question the other day on how I became this strategic.
Welcome to the Marketing Mentors podcast, brought to you by Red Pandas Digital. I am joined by, of course, the lovely Linda. I am Tasha, and we also
have a special guest.
Yes, my little puppy, Ellie, is here today. So if you are watching, make sure you check out how cute she is. And if you're just listening, you can search her on Instagram, Bubba and Ellie Jugs. A little plug there. But coming back to the podcast, Linda, what do you, that's an incredible question. What do you mean? Like what someone actually just said to you, how did you become more strategic?
Yeah, so every now and then we get asked like a really random question that makes us stop and think. But I was with a client, just a project client the other day, and just taking her through HubSpot and workflows. And she was asking me a few tactical questions about the workflow, but then I kind of paused and said, well, why don't you think about this? Something that was a little bit more bigger picture thinking. Yeah. And it prompted her to kind of go, how did you think of that? Like, like I didn't even think of that. How did you get there?
I feel like maybe sometimes we're too close to what we do, and we've been doing it for so long that we don't realize that it is quite strategic, some of the stuff that we do. And we just by default fall into this strategic thinking bucket, if you will, because we've been almost like we've just been conditioned so much to do it that way. And I love this topic, and we purposely have not spoken, like Linda and I haven't spoken too much about this, because we want this to be very organic for those that are listening.
Yeah, and just real.
Really real, because we have been through this journey over the last like 5 years, more if you include other roles. Yeah. But it's like we've gone from, obviously being earlier in our careers quite tactical, through to now where we are kind of, I don't know how far into our career is, but like, where we are at this point where we're quite strategic in our roles. Yeah. Still need to be tactical, because I think that's that whole, hands on the tools, or just staying on the tools thing. Like I think it's important, especially with things like, ChatGPT and AI taking off, like you have to be. Yeah. But there's this element of strategy and strategic thinking that just, I don't think it happened overnight. Like it takes time, and you can only get better at it, right? One of the things that, like one of the tips or the things that I would say to someone that is wanting to be more strategic, or is trying to think like, just like you had your client the other day, how did you think of that? Well, let's just think of why, or objectives or goals. What am I trying to achieve? And no joke, Linda, every time I do something in HubSpot, right, for any client, when they ask me something, I'll say it out loud. I'll say it to the client. I'm like, what are you trying to achieve? Yeah. What's the objective with this report? What's the objective with this email? And it's most of the time they can answer. And if they can't like precisely or concisely answer what I just asked, I know that they're not really sure, and they're not really being strategic. They might be being a bit more tactical and a bit more reactive. Yeah.
And I think in like this particular instance as well, like, on that note, like if we stay with that, she was building an email nurturing sequence, right? And it's a task, build an email nurturing sequence. And although you are working and you're within the realm of like working on that task, you still can kind of be proactive in thinking about how can I make this one task more strategic if your role isn't strategic as is, but you can still insert elements of that into that. So like you said, T, it's about the greater why. How is this fitting in with the overarching marketing strategy or the overarching content strategy? And how can I find ways to make this more strategic within that? So, rather than just staying in the weeds, it's like, okay, well, if I'm building an email nurturing strategy, it's like, well, how is this fitting in with pieces that happen before this? What are my prospects interacting with before they get to this email nurturing sequence? What happens after that email nurturing sequence? And perhaps that means actually having some conversations with different departments. Maybe that's working with sales to understand, okay, once someone goes through this or is going through this, what are sales saying and sharing with them, and how does this fit with that? So thinking bigger picture.
Yep.
Rather than just the one tactical thing that you're working on
100%
is a really great way to like move into that strategic space if you're actively trying to seek more of that responsibility.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. 100%. And I think it's almost like we've said similar things in different words.
Yeah.
If you can challenge it and ask why.
Yeah.
And what are we trying to achieve?
Yeah.
Just like what Linda said, you're naturally going to start thinking more about, well, what's happening before? What's happening after? Where do we want someone to go to after this? Or what do we want them to feel after they consume this piece of content?
Yeah.
So it's just thinking beyond the task for what it is in its point in time.
I think another way that you can take that even further is tying it to like business objectives and revenue.
Huge.
Right?
Yeah.
So like there's elements within, you know, content marketing, let's say, but let's talk even bigger picture than that. Let's talk about, okay, how is this content strategy, you know, contributing towards a campaign? What's the objective of that campaign? What's the forecasted revenue of that campaign? How does that actually move towards the business revenue profit goals for that month? And actually then start to look at, okay, can this achieve that, or do I need to go to my manager with a better, bigger solution to try and hit that overarching goal?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Very useful stuff.
Yeah, I think, you know, if for me personally, I know like I get very bored in the tactical stuff. Like I'm very good at it. I have like great attention to detail, but I get very bored with that stuff. So I know for me, you know, there's a business why, but then there's like also your personal why at the same time. And for me, if I'm not providing what I can see is like real value to a business, then for me, I get bored. So if I'm developing a flyer, like I'm thinking of like, what's this contributing to? What's like the overarching goal? Like, how am I really helping this business?
Yeah. So that's why I think it comes with experience as well. Because like you come into some of these entry-level roles fresh out of uni, and you need to do the groundwork to get to being a bit more strategic. Like you can't come out of uni strategic. I'm sorry. Like I'd love to be challenged, but someone that is like 22, 23 out of university, I'm a strategist. No, you can't be. You haven't failed. Yeah. You haven't been connected to stakeholders of businesses and revenue meetings and revenue teams and understand the ins and outs of that type of stuff. When you understand the why and the objective, you can unpack those tactical things a lot better and choose to go after one tactic than the other, because you know one of them is going to yield better results. Like it's just to me. And again, like what I said at the very beginning of the episode, maybe I'm too close to it now and I've just been doing it for too long, but to me it seems like common sense. But I'm so happy to be challenged, because I think there's people coming out of different roles and they're not used to thinking in a certain way. Yeah. And it takes someone kind of like prompting them with some really good questions. Yeah. Like why? Or what's one thing that you want to achieve out of this, that they then start to think it's so much more than just a workflow with some emails. Yeah. But I think it takes time. I think you can do some more like just tangible things other than obviously asking why and pushing a little bit further and, you know, not accepting no or yes, not accepting the first answer essentially. Yeah. You know, I think just having a growth mindset helps. You know, being open to learning and thinking about it in a different way is 100% going to help, because then, you know, you ultimately know that there's never going to be one road to the solution or one path. There's multiple ways. Yeah. And just knowing that like, hey, there could be a better way, but let's just give this one a try. Being reflective and being able to learn off of like what succeeded, what failed, that stuff develops a strategic mindset and helps you become strategic. Yeah, actually spending time reviewing how it went. Yeah. People underestimate that power of reflection and on your professional work and personally. Like we've spoken before in past episodes about journaling and that type of stuff. I've literally tried to start, like probably the last 2 weeks. Yeah. I've started doing daily reflections. Okay. Yeah. Just to help me, you know, change some of my mindset on stuff. Yeah. And I think reflection in general just helps you become more strategic. Yeah. Because you look back on what kind of was a win or was a loss, or not so much as a loss, a learning moment, let's say. Yeah. And then we build upon that. So being able, I think that reflective reading, growth mindset, learning stuff.
Yeah, I think the learning is a big part of it as
Huge.
well. Like, if you're pitching for something to be bigger than what you've currently been given, or if you're pitching to go into a different direction than what was initially proposed, then you have to share credibility behind that. And I think a big part of that is learning. I won't make a recommendation to a client unless I've learnt about that through experience or just through like consuming knowledge, right? Whether it's reading books, like listening to podcasts, just reading like excerpts from experts in the field, like whatever your learning is, like bringing that to the table and using that as part of that case to be more strategic or take something in a different direction, I think is really important. Another element as well is don't just present problems, but present problems and solutions at the same time.
That's so similar to growth mindset.
Yeah,
right?
like, if you feel like the email nurturing sequence, I feel like this is the theme for today, but
we'll go with that.
If you feel like your email nurturing sequence is not the right path to take and it's not going to move the needle, well, don't just say that.
It's not going to move the needle.
Yeah. Like, well, what will?
Yeah, exactly.
And bring that to the table, because then that's how you start to develop that strategic
100%,
voice.
100%. And I feel like maybe sometimes people are worried that their opinions or their ideas aren't valid or aren't good enough and might not be, like heard. Yeah. But I'm of the mindset, and I know that some of us here as well are the same, just say it. Yeah. What's the worst that can happen? Someone turned around, that's a shit idea. Okay, sorry you didn't like it. Like,
I feel like I'm in deja vu right now.
Yeah, and Linda, because I've said something like this to you before, and I'm sure we're going to have these conversations again, because it's something that we all tend to every now and then need reassurance. Like our very first episode of of Marketing Mentors was on imposter syndrome, and I still remember the feeling of that first episode and thinking am I good enough to be on a podcast?
Out. That feels like a long time ago.
Yeah, like are people actually going to listen to what I have to say? Let's just give it a try. Let's give it a try. And if someone, dude, you had a LinkedIn post that was just like this the other day. You're like,
Did I?
Yeah, you're like, what am I going to post about today? And it's like, if I can say one thing that's going to possibly, quote unquote, move the needle or help someone make a decision, learn something, reflect on something, then let's share our voice and our opinions. And I think that's what, like, coming back, big circle, coming back to what you were just saying is, to be more strategic, you have to be okay with sharing your voice and your opinion. Yeah. Because not everyone's going to agree with you. Yeah. But that's you kind of working that muscle of, like, I've got thoughts, I've got considerations. All of us have got thoughts and considerations. Yeah. My mum used to say, she still does, opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's got thoughts. Everyone's got an opinion. Like I love it. It's so good. It's so dirty. Yeah. I guess you could say something else, like noses. Everyone's got one, right? Yeah. But arseholes is so much more powerful. It stops people in there talking. You're like, what did you just say? So again, another big circle back to what we're talking about is to grow that strategic mindset. Step out of that comfort zone, have that growth mindset that we've talked about a lot. Yeah. And say what you're thinking. Yeah. How do you, and to Linda's point, this email nurturing campaign's not working. It's not giving me results. I think we should try this. Yeah. What the worst thing that could happen is your boss turns around and says, no, that's a horrible idea. Well, maybe you're in the wrong workplace. Or, hey, give it a go. You fail, you learn, you reflect, you grow, you become more strategic. It's a circle. It never ends. Yeah. I love that. Oh, so passionate about being strategic. I do remember especially when I first started in digital as well, and strategist was the role that we were that's the role you're working for naturally when you start as an account manager or in DMC as we call them. And, Moby was the only strategist here for a really long time, but I can confidently say that you and I and him are probably incredible strategists when it comes to this business. Tony from a paid media point of view, Elena even in the way she's growing, because we foster here everyone to speak their mind, make mistakes and learn from it. So naturally people are becoming strategists very quickly. Yeah.
You know what? That's a really good point, because I think the company as well fostering that environment is so important. Yeah. As digital marketing consultants here, it's less around the how to do it, but more on the why. And digital marketing consultants here at
why.
Red Pandas are given that opportunity to spend time on the why and not just focus on the how.
It's almost like you're expected to spend more time on the why.
Yeah.
The how's easy, Linda.
Yeah.
We all know that. Like we've got the
how is just stuff that you can
tactics.
offshore. Like it's not real value.
Yeah, and
right?
we can all do it. I think that's another key thing is that everyone in the business has also been in production roles.
Yeah.
Again, we've spoken about this in other episodes. You're strategic with your accounts and within the business, and you're also expected and do some of that production or tactical work.
Yeah.
Because keeping your hands on the tools also keeps you strategic.
Yeah.
And it keeps you humbled as well,
Yeah,
man.
yeah,
like
yeah.
you need to know how to use ChatGPT.
Yeah.
I went to town last night. It was so good.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. I'm trying to get my husband to realize how powerful it is. He's a marine mechanic.
Right.
It's a very different space.
Yeah.
They're still a little bit like old school, like using paper job cards and shit. And I'm like,
Okay.
come on, man. This is a whole other world. So I literally said, I'm going to ask ChatGPT about like an engine.
Yeah.
And I did. I asked it about some like Yamaha 44-stroke petrol outboard engine.
Sure.
Anyway, it full told me like all the components of this engine.
Yeah,
and I
right.
read it to him and he was like,
Was he impressed?
he was like, yeah, I know how powerful it is. And I'm like, you got to start using it. Oh, come on. You know what I mean? Different space. I don't know how I got onto that tangent. But
you need to stay on the tools.
yeah, you're right. You need to stay on the
Yeah.
tools. You do. Because it just, it, like you said, it keeps you humble. It keeps you strategic for sure.
Yeah. I think for me, like, if you're going to take one takeaway, for me personally, it's just think bigger picture than what you're currently doing. That's how you're going to become more strategic in that space. Like, think about the bigger why, your why and the business why.
Yeah.
And whatever you're doing, always go back to that. And when you go back to that, you'll find room to be more strategic and have your own ideas and bring those ideas to the table.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I think mine's not too dissimilar. My one takeaway for anyone that is wanting to be more strategic in their role, really close, like it's almost the same thing as Linda's, but ask yourself, what is the objective?
Yeah.
What are we trying to achieve? So even if it is something quite tactical, you can ask yourself that question. And as the answer might be, I want people to sign up to my blog. That's fine. If that's the result you're after, get into the habit of asking yourself, what's the objective? What are we trying to achieve? Yeah. Because I think that leading with what Linda's saying, big picture, that's going to get you there.
You know what? If you are someone who gets like really distracted with the shiny toys that come out, I feel like you'd be someone that'd be quite tactical in that way. You know what I mean? Someone that gets distracted by all these little things, like going back to the why and understanding your goal is a great way to not fall into that trap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Anything else you want to add on how to be more strategic?
No, but it was nice being joined by Ellie, who's been sleeping this whole time.
Slept the whole time. She's low-key snoring. I don't think
Oh, really?
The microphone definitely wouldn't be picking that up, but she is snoring. So it's been slightly distracting. She probably will not be joining us for another episode of Marketing Mentors.
Nice to have you, Ellie.
And my other dog won't join because he is a pain in the ass. Now, it wouldn't be a proper Marketing Mentors episode if we didn't do our little promo for the event coming up, which I'm super excited for. October 31st, They Ask You Answer, Digital Marketing and Sales Mastery event. We've got Marcus Sheridan, author and impacts business owner, coming down from the States to deliver an incredible keynote. I've seen this man speak many times. He is all of the feels. Yeah. All of the feels. Linda will be speaking, which is super exciting. And she's actually probably speaking on the most exciting topic, which is like
the most sexy topic right now, I would say.
Sexy, exciting, would it, like, especially for the industries we'll be talking to. So I want to get the name of the topic right. And it's going to be called, here we go, 7 killer AI prompts for marketers to use immediately.
And then we've got yours truly. Tasha's joining us.
Yes, I will also be speaking about the customer journey map and what's it called? Doubling your closing rate with a sales journey map is what my
Still a
speak's
few months
called.
out, guys. So
we're getting into it.
You have time to get tickets.
Definitely. And I think we're in like phase 2 of ticketing. So the prices are going up soon. If you want more than one ticket, hit us up on LinkedIn or socials or wherever.
Yeah, Tasha or I, we can help you out.
Yeah, for sure. But we would love to, like, if you are a listener and you come to the event, you have to come and tell us for sure. That'd be exciting.
Sure. Yeah.
We'll give you a signed t-shirt.
I love that.
One person comes up to us. I listen to you.
Hey, one's better than none. I love
100%.
that. Yeah. We've got hands going up in the background.
Podcaster editor team. Shout out to AM Visuals. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
All right. What a wrap. I mean, what a sesh. That's a wrap.
Yeah.
Thanks, Linda.
Thanks, Dee.